Before we dive in, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment to help us bring more solved cold cases to light and honor the victims whose stories demand justice. The chill of early March 2001 had settled over the Bronx, New York, leaving a thin layer of frost on the sidewalks. Robin Lawrence, 30, a devoted mother to a 3-year-old boy named Ethan, was finishing her shift at the small downtown boutique she managed. Her day had been long, full of customers, laughter, and the quiet satisfaction of doing something she loved. Her son was with her sister that evening, giving Robin a rare night to catch up on chores and errands. Robin's life was ordinary in its beauty. A small apartment on West 145th Street. Walls painted in warm creams and soft pastels. Photographs of Ethan everywhere. Her neighbors described her as polite, warm, someone who would always stop to help an elderly resident carry groceries. She had dreams beyond her current life, opening her own bakery, providing a safe, loving home for her son, and one day taking Ethan to Disneyland. But none of that would come to pass. Later that night, at approximately 10:45 p.m., Robin's sister received a panicked call from a neighbor. A man had been seen lurking near Robin's apartment building earlier, acting strangely. By the time she called Robin's apartment, there was no answer. The door was slightly ajar, the lock broken. Inside, the apartment was eerily quiet. Clothes were scattered across the floor. Robin's purse lay on the kitchen counter, untouched, and her keys were still in the lock of the front door. But Robin was nowhere to be found. Detective Angela Martinez, 38, was assigned to the case. She had been with the NYPD for 14 years, known for her persistence and methodical approach. From the moment I stepped into that apartment, I felt a heavy weight. Martinez would later recall. Something about the way it was left. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This was personal. The investigation began immediately. CCTV footage from nearby stores showed a man following Robin as she walked home from the bus stop, his face partially obscured by a hood. Witnesses reported hearing a woman scream in the vicinity around the time Robin went missing. But by the time police arrived, the street was empty. The apartment complex, usually bustling, had been unusually quiet that night. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Robin's son, Ethan, was cared for by relatives, but the void left by her absence was impossible to fill. Her friends and family distributed flyers, held vigils, and called local radio stations, pleading for any information about her whereabouts. Each lead seemed to dissolve into nothing. Detectives followed hundreds of tips, all of which led to dead ends. The first major breakthrough came nearly a year later. In early 2002, when a package was discovered at a postal facility in Queens. Inside was a collection of Robin's personal items, including a scarf and a bracelet, along with a chilling handwritten note. "You couldn't protect her, could you?" Forensic analysis confirmed the handwriting matched a man named Derek Holloway, 34, who had a prior record of assault and had lived in the same neighborhood as Robin. Holloway had been under police surveillance in unrelated cases, but nothing had previously tied him to Robin's disappearance. Detective Martinez felt a surge of hope and dread. We knew we were on the verge of something, but also that we were dealing with someone extremely dangerous, she recalled. DNA collected from the items in the package, combined with fibers found in Robin's apartment, began to paint a picture of what had likely happened that night. It appeared Holloway had broken into Robin's apartment after stalking her for several weeks, intending to abduct her. Evidence suggested he had taken her from the building against her will. likely in a vehicle later identified through license plate records. While detectives pursued Holloway, the community's fear intensified. Parents kept children home from playgrounds, neighbors checked each other's doors, and local news outlets broadcast warnings. Robin Lawrence, a woman who had embodied care and routine, had vanished, leaving terror in her wake. Months later, in 2003, Holloway was arrested for a separate assault case. While in custody, Detective Martinez revisited the Robin Lawrence case, hoping for a confession or a lead. Interviews with Holloway were painstaking. He was clever, deflecting questions and creating doubt among the investigators. But Martinez had learned to read beyond words. His behavior, the hesitation in his answers, the tiny smirks at certain suggestions, all pointed to guilt. The forensic evidence, combined with digital tracking, witness recollections, and Holloway's own suspicious activities, began forming a chain strong enough to consider an arrest. But the final step would require patience, precision, and a willingness to confront one of the darkest outcomes a detective could imagine. Detective Martinez often recalls the moment she first envisioned the possibility of closure. Standing in Robin's empty apartment, imagining her son returning home to find answers, imagining the long-awaited confrontation with the man who had destroyed lives. The cold case, once dormant, was about to awaken in ways the community could never forget. The investigation into Robin Lawrence's disappearance had gone cold for nearly 2 years. Detective Angela Martinez refused to let it fade. Every lead, every tip, every scrap of evidence was revisited with a meticulous eye. Holloway's prior assaults and his presence near Robin's apartment on the night she vanished kept him high on the radar. But nothing concrete had tied him definitively to her abduction. By mid-2003, forensic science had evolved enough to give Martinez and her team a new weapon: advanced DNA analysis. The items recovered in the chilling package left at Queen's postal facility, the scarf, bracelet, and a partial hair strand, were sent to a state-of-the-art lab specializing in degraded DNA evidence. The lab was able to extract a usable profile from the strands and compare them to Holloway's DNA. Weeks of anticipation passed. Finally, the lab called with the results: a match. The DNA from the hair on the scarf confirmed the connection to Holloway. Martinez felt a mixture of relief and dread. Relief, because the pieces of the puzzle were finally coming together. Dread, because confronting Holloway meant entering a world of manipulation and violence that few survived unscathed. Martinez coordinated with a specialized unit to bring Holloway in quietly, avoiding public leaks that might alert him or trigger flight. But before an arrest could be made, the team needed a final piece of confirmation. They turned to cell phone records, license plate logs, and witness statements, hoping to reconstruct the night Robin vanished. One breakthrough came from a street vendor who remembered seeing a man load a large bag into a silver minivan around 11:15 p.m. near Robin's apartment complex. The man's height, build, and clothing matched Holloway. CCTV footage from a nearby gas station confirmed a minivan leaving the neighborhood at a suspicious hour. Registered to Holloway's brothers, address a twist that suggested careful planning. While the digital and physical evidence mounted, Martinez began interrogating Holloway's acquaintances. Neighbors spoke of odd behaviors, trips he took alone at odd hours, unexplained absences, and the tendency to avoid discussing Robin even casually. One former co-worker mentioned he had once become angry after seeing Robin with her son in the park, a fleeting but telling clue about his obsession. the emotional weight of the case also deepened. Ethan, Robin's 3-year-old son, had grown into a quiet child, constantly aware of the absence of his mother. His aunts and uncles shielded him as best as they could, but even at his young age, he remembered the warmth of Robin's hugs and the sound of her laughter. The detectives often imagined Robin's voice and presence, using it as motivation to see the case through to the end. By early 2004, all the evidence pointed squarely to Holloway. Detective Martinez, now fully convinced of his guilt, prepared a covert collection of DNA from Holloway. Like many cases involving long-sought answers, this step was critical. A coffee cup discarded outside a cafe he frequented provided a clean sample. Within days, lab results confirmed a 99.999% match to the DNA found on the scarf and Robin's personal items, the final nail in the coffin. With confirmation in hand, Martinez coordinated with the NYPD's Major Crimes Unit. They prepared a quiet arrest to avoid endangering the community or tipping Holloway off. On a crisp April morning, Holloway's apartment was surrounded. Detectives entered quietly, reading him his rights. His face betrayed a flicker of recognition, an almost imperceptible acknowledgement that the truth had finally caught up with him. During questioning, Holloway remained mostly silent, his demeanor calm but guarded. Detective Martinez pressed, recounting the evidence, the DNA, the digital trail, the witness statements. Each detail was a hammer blow. But Holloway's composure only cracked once when confronted with the photos of Robin and little Ethan for the first time. He showed visible remorse, though whether it was genuine or just. Self-preservation remained unclear. The arrest made headlines across New York. Families in Robin's neighborhood, who had lived with fear and unanswered questions for over 3 years, finally felt a mixture of relief and sorrow. The case became an example of how perseverance, community vigilance, and modern forensic science could intersect to bring justice to victims long forgotten by time. Investigators discovered more about Holloway's psychological profile as the case unfolded. He had stalked Robin for weeks, monitoring her daily routine, her interactions, and even the parks she visited with Ethan. His obsession had been methodical and calculated, with enough patience to bide time until he felt he could act without risk of immediate capture. The package left at the postal facility had been a taunt, a sinister message that Holloway believed no one could stop him. As part of the investigation, Detective Martinez also worked closely with social services to ensure Ethan received counseling and care. Every decision in the investigation was mindful of the boy's well-being, proof that even in the darkest cases, compassion for the living is as critical as justice for the deceased. The arrest was a turning point. Holloway was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. His trial, later that year, would reveal the chilling details of his obsession, the extent of premeditation, and the devastating loss inflicted on Robin's family. But for now, the community breathed a tentative sigh of relief. Detective Martinez later reflected on the case. It's easy to feel powerless in the face of tragedy like this, but the truth has a way of catching up. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but it does come if you keep looking, if you refuse to forget the victims. Even after the arrest, Robin's story resonated beyond the courtroom. Local schools began programs teaching children and parents about personal safety. Community groups advocated for better surveillance in neighborhoods. And through it all, Robin's memory remained a symbol of resilience, hope, and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Before we begin, if you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Your support helps bring these cold cases into the light and honors the victims who deserve justice. The morning of the arrest had been tense but controlled. Holloway, 34 at the time, was led quietly from his Queens apartment by Detective Angela Martinez and the NYPD Major Crimes Unit. His expression was unreadable, though subtle flickers of recognition betrayed that he understood the weight of what had finally caught up to him. By mid-2004, Holloway's trial became the centerpiece of media attention in New York. Reporters packed the courtroom daily, neighbors filled the public gallery, and families of victims from other unsolved cases came to witness how meticulous detective work and advanced forensics could finally deliver answers decades in the making. During the trial, the prosecution presented a detailed timeline of Holloway's obsession with Robin Lawrence. Evidence included DNA matches from personal items, CCTV footage, witness testimonies, and digital records showing Holloway's movements in the days surrounding Robin's disappearance. Each piece painted a chilling portrait of premeditation, patience, and psychological manipulation. Detective Martinez testified for days, recounting the painstaking investigation. "We followed every lead, revisited every tip, and never gave up," she said in court. "For Robin, for her son Ethan, and for every person touched by this tragedy, we could not stop until justice was served." The defense attempted to cast doubt, arguing that Holloway had no direct evidence tying him to Robin's disappearance for the first months of 2001. But the DNA evidence, especially the match from the coffee cup and the items in the postal package, left the jury with little room for reasonable doubt. It was meticulous, scientific, and undeniable. Throughout the proceedings, Robin's memory hung heavy in the courtroom. Her 3-year-old son, Ethan, now 6, was too young to fully understand, but he attended with relatives. Photos of Robin smiling, playing, and holding Ethan were shown during the trial, reminding everyone that this case was not only about evidence, it was about a life stolen far too soon. On the third day of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, kidnapping, and obstruction of justice. A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Families embraced quietly. Some wept. Detective Martinez, despite years of experience, felt a lump rise in her throat. After all the years, the unanswered questions, the sleepless nights, justice had finally arrived. Judge Caroline Monroe sentenced Holloway to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Given the severity of his crimes and the enduring psychological trauma inflicted on Ethan and Robin's extended family, the maximum sentence was appropriate. "No punishment can restore what was lost," Judge Monroe said, "but it ensures the community is protected from a man capable of such calculated cruelty." The aftermath rippled far beyond the courtroom. Ethan received counseling and the unwavering support of his family. Community organizations in Queens launched new initiatives to improve child safety awareness and support families dealing with trauma. Robin's friends and extended family established a scholarship fund in her name, aimed at helping young mothers continue their education, a tribute to her life, potential, and dreams. Detective Martinez reflected publicly on the case. Robin's story is heartbreaking, but it is also a testament to perseverance. Modern forensic science, combined with relentless investigation, means that even decades-old crimes can be solved. No one should ever feel forgotten. The case also became an educational tool. Law enforcement agencies across New York and the nation studied the Robin Lawrence investigation, learning how DNA analysis, witness interviewing, and digital evidence can converge to solve cold cases. Colleges offered seminars in forensic science programs using the case as an example of patience, precision, and human tenacity. For Ethan, the journey was far from over. While the trial and conviction gave him answers, the emotional wounds would take years to heal. Family members committed to surrounding him with love, stability, and reassurance that his mother's life, and the tragedy of her death, would never be forgotten in the years following Holloway's imprisonment. Robin's story remained a symbol of resilience and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Community members, detectives, and ordinary citizens inspired by her case continued to work on unsolved cases, ensuring that the lessons learned from her disappearance would help prevent future tragedies. And while the world would never see Robin again, her name became a Bacona reminder that even in the darkest corners, justice can prevail, and that the persistence of one detective, the careful application of science, and the dedication of a community can finally bring closure to the most heartbreaking mysteries. The memory of Robin Lawrence lives on not only in the heart of her son, but in the lasting change her case inspired. And for Detective Angela Martinez, it was a powerful affirmation. No case is ever truly cold if someone refuses to forget.